So, remember when we were reading Captain Fatty's articles and you used to get mad because you were like annoyed at how good he was at boat work? Or we were both annoyed?
Yeah, it was one of the articles that Captain Fatty wrote, and he was like, yeah, I had to build a new rudder while I was in some like Pacific island or something. And you know, I was just like, ugh, like, well, whatever, that'll never be me. But I mean, I felt the same about like you know, reading Lynn and Larry Party's books and Larry just throwing things together. And I got really intimidated by that because I was just like, okay, well, this is different for them because they're like master craftsmen, you know. But you know, it just takes time. It's amazing if you really do everything yourself, you know, all the work yourself, you end up getting pretty darn good at this stuff. I think that's the trick, right? Like if you're paying other people to do this stuff, you're not going to learn a whole lot. But boy, if you've got to do it all, like I think you'd be hard pressed to learn faster. You know what I mean? Like, maybe if you were literally an apprentice under someone that knew everything, you could learn a lot. But even then, like when I worked on boats, like it was tough to learn quickly because you were getting paid, and no one wanted to pay you to like take a lot of time to teach you stuff. So half the time, the people that already knew how to do something would do it, and they'd give you some menial task, you know, so that you could be useful. But like when you're refitting your own boat, repairing your own boat, fixing your own boat, fabricating stuff on your own boat, like you're learning at such a fast pace because you're doing it all, you're getting your hands on it, you're messing up, you're learning how not to do it, you're researching. So yeah, the opportunities that you are afforded by doing it all yourself to learn are incredible.
And what were your like best resources of learning? Like if someone was trying to do exactly what you're doing now, like what would you tell them?
What I could say right now is I could say like, oh, well, this one book and this one blog online and like this one YouTube channel. But like, I mean, Boatworks today is just amazing. That, you know, those videos basically taught me how to fiberglass. But like generally, I think a broader concept is you need to just research the hell out of it. Like, don't just rely on one source of information. Particularly, don't just rely on like forums, because forums are just full of people that are super opinionated and sometimes don't know what they're talking about. And like, so just research everything. Read books, read magazine articles, look at blogs, look at YouTube videos, you know.
Mm-hmm. What about
it's like as long as you crave the information, as long as you're hungry for it and you feel like a need for it and even like an anxiety, then that's good. Like if you feel that, then you're gonna spend your free time researching, and you're gonna, I mean, that's literally like, you know, cooks, like when we take days off, like on Sundays, I'm reading about, you know, like how to work with new materials and stuff like that, you know. So it just comes down to how much do you want to learn that stuff.
And as far as like people to listen to, what would you say?
Again, like that's why I think that you just need to get a broad spectrum of information, because be really careful about any individual source. Like I was listening to a podcast, On the Wind, which is a great podcast, and he was interviewing Brian Toss, who wrote The Rigger's Apprentice, and Brian Toss was bringing up a concept called there's a lot of people that are one boat stupid. And the idea is like they understand one boat really, really well, but like other boats do it differently, and like by looking at other sources, like you actually can get a broad understanding and realize like, oh, the way I was doing this is actually terrible, you know, even though it kind of worked. So like a lot of people are one boat stupid, and so if you listen to a single person about anything, that's a bad idea.
Can you talk a little bit about the experts that we found and kind of what our technique was with them in Key West?
Oh, I mean, God, I imagine that if you go to any do-it-yourself boatyard in America, or you know, anywhere in the world probably for that matter, and just like try really hard to like to refit your boat, the guys and the girls that really know what they're talking about are gonna admire that. They're gonna respect you for it, and they're gonna want to help you, you know? Not all of them, but boy, have we had luck with that. And it makes sense, because when I am like old and acting like I know everything, like I'm gonna want to help out like young, passionate, driven people as well. So again, like to me, it's almost like sort of like that whole concept of like 80% of anything is just showing up. It's like, to me, 80% of like learning this stuff is having that drive, is like really wanting to. And as long as you have that, like you're basically done. It's just a matter of time at that point, you know?
Can you talk a little bit about what it felt like when we first started refitting Atticus?
Yeah, I mean, so I can kind of remember that at the very, very beginning, when we first hauled out and started working on the boat, like no one took us very seriously. That's what it was. And I think it's because the majority of young people that buy boats aren't taking it very seriously and aren't prepared to work as hard as they're gonna have to work. And I think we especially came in coming off of super yachts, and so people thought that we were like yuppies, you know, and they didn't respect that. But then, you know, you can only grind bottom paint and fiberglass, you know, in the tropical summer for so long before people start to respect you. So I think it was just a matter of time, given the attitude that we were approaching our project with, you know.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I think this bad boy turned out great. I'm super happy with it. You know, I think it looks sharp. The fairing turned out wonderful. I may, in the future, try and stiffen up the deck a little bit more. It's not bad, but it could be more stiff for sure. I don't know if that would involve putting more support beams on, or if it would mean putting more glass on the top and bottom of the Nitacore. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But generally, overall, I'm really happy with it, and I'm ready to get cruising again. I'm so done working on boats.
And last question, what was it like working with the Mexican crew?
I mean, once we got a good core group of guys, it was great. The problem was getting to that group of guys. It was really hard finding reliable guys, basically. And a lot of it was because, like, we were, in Mexico, for instance, like, you're legally allowed to, as a worker, you're legally allowed to show up late to work without informing your boss at all, 2 times a month. And that's the sort of thing that, like, John, you know, who is in charge of the project, was just not going to put up with. So in a lot of ways, like, we were specifically looking for guys that were like a little bit like above the normal, the norm here. You know what I mean? Like guys that don't show up late, period, and guys that'll work, you know, 5.5 days a week and be fine with that. Sometimes it was more like 6 days a week. So anyway, it was a demanding job, so it was hard to find guys that were willing to do it, basically.
And how was communicating?
Oh, that was hard, but it was the first time that I had ever really immersed myself in another language in that sense. Like I've lived outside, you know, in countries where I don't speak the language a lot of my life, but mostly what I did was just hang out with the other people that did speak English that were around me, and then learn just enough of that language to barely get by. Working in the boatyard with the guys was cool because I was fully immersed, had to communicate, and so I got pretty handy with, you know, at least like boat language.